What's going on, guys? So this is the meme for this video. Obviously Bitcoin is not doing well, which is literally what we talked about in the last video. So right now, guys, if you recall in the last video, when we were at these levels, I talked about it not being a good short-term buying opportunity and that we would most likely have a nice dump because of the US government moving $2 billion worth of Bitcoin to exchanges, and that we would minimum go to the means, and that preferably it would be a very nice buying opportunity if we could go literally to this level. You can go check the last video, I talked about it, which is the gray line right there. So right now that's where we are. So at the moment there is a 68% probability that we actually do have a bounce back to the means right here. But in this video I'm gonna talk to you guys about why it might not be that good of a buying opportunity yet. So stick around, this video is actually going to be super important, and I'm also going to be talking about the right time to actually get back in crypto. You're right, if you guys recall, I did sell all my Ethereum a couple of months ago, literally. Thank God I did. I did not sell my Solana. I'm still very bullish on Solana, even though we're also going to talk about that again in the last video, and we're going to see how much downside is there left for Solana. And then afterwards we're going to dive in a little bit of macro as well. I'm going to show you guys why. If you guys recall, I did sell like 50% of all my crypto holding a couple of weeks ago, right? I'm very happy I did that. I kept selling out every time we got very close to the 70K level, because obviously the market structure now has changed to the downside. It was in a beautiful uptrend, it no longer is, and I need to respect my system. For now, it has saved me a lot of money and also helped me put a lot of cash on the side for me to get back in. And that's also what we're going to talk about, the perfect time to get back in my humble opinion, based on data. And of course, obviously, if the sell-off continues, we could go lower right here to the purple line. In my humble opinion, I do think that there's a high probability that we do go lower. Even if we get a nice dead cat bounce, I think we're gonna end up going lower. So looking at the weekly time frame, this is one of the reasons why I cautioned you guys, and this is the most important part, literally, when it comes to Bitcoin. You need to pay attention to this one only indicator. It's important if you want to make a lot of money in the next couple of months with crypto, so do pay attention. It's very simple. It's basically just a good old Mac Daddy right here. I warn that until this cross to the upside, this will end up being a dead cat bounce, and that's exactly what is going on right now. But for me to get back in now, I'm really gonna have to see a cross here minimum on the weekly, and I'm also gonna in the next coming minutes talk to you about also the time frame and the best time to actually buy as well. And if this continue, guys, and I just want to warn you, if we go look in the past price action, right, I want to bring your eyes to right here, guys. Okay, sorry if the chart is super messy, I apologize for that. I'm doing this video super quick, I don't really have a lot of time right now. But if you guys look right here, we were extremely overextended. That was the top of the parabolic rally, and then we rubber band snap back into these moving averages. And right now, if we go back to where we are today, I would not be surprised if we do something very similar in the next coming weeks, right? If this MACD stays on the bearish side, right, and the momentum continues on the downside, I do believe we could basically go back into this zone right here, which then will be the actual real bottom, in my humble opinion. There's also a possibility it doesn't happen, but you do need to be aware that that would be about a 15% drop. All right, if we did copy what happened here in the past, I do think it is more likely until the momentum shifts back on the positive side. And again, guys, if you recall, also this is super important, it's the Bitcoin dominance compared to the money supply. So as you guys recall right here, this is when we called the bottom on this channel, right after calling tops multiple times as well, and we beautifully bounced here on the means. Right now though, that's kind of the problem, is we were not able to break that key level in that yellow zone right here, which would then, you know, bring us to the top of the orange zone, right? So that would be the basically the parabolic rally phase of the Bitcoin price action. But right now we are most likely going to retest that green line and hopefully use it again as support. If we do not, that would most likely coincide with what I just showed you, and we would go to the lower level of the yellow zone, which would be that line right here I drew for you guys, right? So that, in my humble opinion, is the worst case scenario for Bitcoin. And if that does happen, everything is going to get completely nuked. But in the same time, understand that the broad markets will also be down, right? So the S&P 500 will also be down. So it's not just going to be crypto, it's going to be most likely the broad markets as a whole that are going to have a hard next couple of months. And then zooming in that Bitcoin dominance compared to the money supply on a smaller time frame, right? We can see that looking at the breadth, that every time the 10-day breadth and the 20-day breadth and the 50-day breadth sold off into the green boxes right here, that was the bottom, right? So as you guys can see, the most reliable is going to be the 50-day breadth, and it is still not in the green box, like touching the green box right here. So technically speaking, we could still have a little bit more downside before a short-term bounce, so do be careful with that. I do believe we are inevitably going to have a short-term bounce, but I would not get too excited once that happened, and I'm going to show you guys why. All right, so going on Sentiment Trader and looking at the seasonality data. And I also just wanted to give a quick shout out to Alessio, I think that's his name. He's a great trader, great YouTube channel out there. He made a great video about this. It's a really good video. He's gonna go in way more depth than me, so I'm gonna do this super quick, guys. But basically, when we look at the month of August, which is this month, Bitcoin goes nowhere. Okay, so this is why I would not get excited if we do get a short-term bounce. This month usually typically is very flat and choppy. But this is when it gets very important to pay attention. So if we look at September, guys, it's horrible. So September is a horrible month, okay? Not just for Bitcoin, but also for the broad markets. And so basically, there you have it. This is the time zone I'm looking at to re-enter in the crypto markets. And then I want to show you guys October, aka Uptober. Right, so October is extremely bullish, guys. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing this month of August kind of going nowhere, right? So we're gonna go up, down, zigzag. Then I do believe that September is going to be most likely the dip buying opportunity, right? So especially like the second half of September is really going to be a great time to start layering back in the market for October. And that's basically my game plan in a nutshell, right? So from today to end of September, I think it's going to be very choppy. It's not going to be worth being in the markets with a lot of size. Honestly, you're just going to lose your mind. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, I could be completely wrong. And afterwards, talking about that, I'm going to be talking about macro as well. You're welcome to stay. But if you're not interested, it's okay. Honestly, if you already made it past this video, you're good. You got all the good information. All right. So you know about the weekly MACD, you know about a short-term bounce come in, and you know about the seasonality. And that's pretty much what you really need to make a lot of money in the next coming months. It's really going to be about being patient and waiting for a very good entry, which in my humble opinion is going to happen in September. All right, so before I get in the macro side and bore you to death, I just wanted to look at the Solana dominance compared to the Ethereum dominance to look at, the risk reward. Basically, is it worth it to buy Solana right now? Because Solana, guys, is down almost back to the same lows we just had. It's down almost 30%, if I'm not mistaken. I'm still very bullish on it long term. I would not be surprised if we, go down way more if we do get that supposed recession, right? And I do believe it's going to be an amazing buying opportunity if you have a lot of cash. If not, you're most likely going to panic and take big losses. But right now, I just wanted to look at the Solana dominance compared to Ethereum. And at the moment, guys, even though it had a very serious correction, looking at the dominance, it's still pretty high, guys. So we could still technically go lower. We're still in the upper range, which is kind of bizarre, but looking at this, it's still not a good time to buy Solana, guys. We could have a bounce and go back again to that upper range right here. All right, but most likely we should have a reversal right here to the means and then see if we have a potential bounce. But honestly, the best time to buy Solana again, and that's what I will be waiting for, is when we get into this range right here. The same happened here, right? And we bounced and Solana went up 30%. So right now it's still not worth buying Solana based on risk reward, in my humble opinion, looking at the probabilities of Solana dominance. And then I also wanted to look at the Solana dominance compared to Bitcoin, and we are now at a first standard deviation, but again guys, like, we should go a little bit lower before this becomes a really good buying opportunity, which will most likely happen in September, like I mentioned, right? So this is why personally I'm going to be very patient. Right now I'm being very patient. I'm not gonna rush in. I don't think it's a wise move. We could, bounce back here to the means and then, zigzag around until September and then go back down, right? Or flush right now. Honestly, that is hard to predict, right? So that's, my system does not predict those type of move, but it will predict the precise entries for me based on probabilities. And that's really the only thing you need if you want to be profitable at swing trading like me. All right guys, so we are done with crypto for this video. So now we're gonna step in the broad markets, right? So I'm kind of matching all of it together, guys. I apologize for my last videos. I don't really have a choice because right now the broad market is extremely important. So looking at the S&P 500, we are now again, like I said, at buyable bottoms, and we actually had the pull that I talked about, like hoping we get a last pull to complete this Elliott wave pattern, right? Kind of in the spirit of an Elliott wave. Right now we are at buyable bottoms on the short term, but again guys, there is now the concern on the bigger picture macro so-called recession, and I'm going to show you guys basically the sector ratios that I also talked about in my last video when I said that I was going to monitor this to see where is money rotating, and I wanted to make sure that money was not leaving the stock market. And the problem is it's actually leaving, guys. So if you recall, big institutions were selling all these sectors that performed very, very well in the past 2 years, and they were putting it back into consumer finance, industrial builders, and other sectors until literally a day ago, where they started selling those too. So now we're no longer in a rotation, we're more into a sell-off market right now. This is obviously not something you want to see if you're bullish, right? So that's basically saying that institutions are literally getting out of the stock market. So on the short term, yes, it's a dip buying opportunity. We also have the volatility index, right, flashing a buy signal, but I would be very careful, guys. I do think we're gonna have a bounce. So on the short term for the SPY, if we do have a bounce, we're gonna go right here to that purple line with the moving averages right here, and then we're gonna see if we do get rejected or not. If we don't get rejected and we are able to break above, then the next target is going to be the means right here, which is the green line. But even if that does happen, I'm still not going to flip bullish, honestly, and I'm going to show you why. So the S&P 500 has the same problem, guys, than Bitcoin. So the weekly momentum is now to the downside. This is the only time frame, guys, where you really do not want to piss against. And as you guys can see, every time it crosses, we minimum have 2 red weeks. Okay, we have never had only 1 red week after this indicator crossed. We minimum also have another red week. So this is why right now I'm kind of being patient, and I would not be surprised if the short-term probabilities get kind of blown out the water, honestly, to go to way lower levels quicker than expected. Why am I sounding this panicky? Well, the problem is, the yield curve inversion, and it's very important actually, because a lot of people do not know how to use it properly. I learned how to use it properly because of Dan Bird, so shout out to him. Like he mentioned, so basically recessions always occur a couple of months after the yield curve reinvert back above the zero line right here. Okay, and right now, guys, we are literally knocking at heaven's door right there. So, and on top of that, right, I put a moving average here so you guys can see every time we cross above this moving average, guys, and we surpass that zero line, every time, guys, we get a recession, and it's always followed with basically the unemployment as well. Right now, guys, it's going up, and it's strictly speaking, when the unemployment starts going up like this, right, it doesn't just stop like this, and it usually goes to the means, which is the medium of unemployment, which would be 9 million right here, guys, based on my probability system. And also, the reason why it's very tricky right now is that times are changing a little bit. And what I mean by that is, because of technology and information, history rhymes a lot, but it changes a little bit. And right now, we could be seeing a recession that gets triggered faster than usual and could end faster as well, which will be a beautiful buying opportunity, by the way. So don't be scared. If you have capital, this is going to be a life-changing event if it does happen. And then that's when it's going to be, my God, buying Bitcoin when that happens, holy shit. All right, but my point is, guys, so if we do break above that zero line, right, usually, historically speaking, it takes a couple of months before it happens. But maybe this time, it could be a little bit different, where it starts hitting us right away, guys. And then obviously, right, they're going to lower rates. They're going to shove a bunch of liquidity in the system. And then, we're going to be filthy rich if we buy the bottom properly. And then also looking at the standard deviation for the VIX. Right now, obviously, we're at 20, above 20, sorry. We are at the means, though, of the probabilities. So if we do get the sell-off to continue until September, I don't know if it's going to coincide with the actual real recession, or if it's just going to be kind of like that recession fear correction in the markets, and then right, September we buy, and then we go up until December, January, and then we do get the real recession a couple of months after the yield curve reinverts back, which is what typically does happen. Or if it happens in advance right away in the same time into September, right? And then anyways, it's going to still be a buying opportunity, right? So for me, I'm going to look at the levels of the VIX that my system is telling me. We should go about here, guys. So that would be the third standard deviation of the VIX, which is 36. So we should go in the 36 ballpark before we see a real big buying opportunity. So in the meantime, I do think we're going to chop around, and then September, the seasonality, you saw it, it's bad, and then October, it's October. So hopefully that helps. Those are kind of the levels I'm looking at, and then obviously you're looking at all the internals in the markets and looking at the breadth. The breadth of the indexes is going to be extremely important to look at, and trend following as well. And there you go, guys. So hopefully you learned a thing or two. Sorry if it's a lot of information. Obviously it's hard to learn all of this stuff in one YouTube video. I have no idea how long I've recorded, so I apologize for that. I wish you a beautiful weekend. If this is something you want to learn in depth, having a system that literally shows you the actual levels of when to enter and when to exit, right, with no emotion, without using your intuition or drawing lines, or basically gambling, and you actually want to be consistent and profitable in the markets, and this is the type of strategy that you think would work with you and would make you very profitable quickly, which I know it would, just let me know, right? Yeah, so I wish you guys a beautiful day.